Welcome back to AI Explained. Today we're diving into some pretty big news that's sending shockwaves through the world of AI. You ready to unpack some serious geopolitical chess moves
Absolutely. This is a fascinating development.
involving the US, China, and the future of AI chips?
Yeah, with far-reaching implications. I mean, it's not just about technology, it's about who controls the building blocks of AI and what that means for the global balance of power.
Okay, so for our listener who might not be totally up to speed,
Sure.
what exactly are these AI chips everyone's talking about? What makes them so special in the AI world?
Well, think of AI chips as the engines that power the AI revolution.
Hmm.
They're specialized processors, kind of like supercharged brains, designed to handle the massive amounts of data and complex calculations that AI demands.
Okay.
Things like machine learning, image recognition, natural language processing, all of that requires serious computational firepower. And these chips are designed specifically to deliver that.
So without these chips, we're basically stuck in the slow lane of AI development.
Pretty much, yeah. The kind of sophisticated AI we're seeing emerge, self-driving cars, personalized medicine, advanced robotics, all of that relies heavily on these powerful AI chips.
Yeah.
Without access to them, it becomes much harder to develop and deploy those cutting-edge technologies.
Now, the big news is that the Biden administration has just rolled out these major export controls on AI chips, with China seemingly being the main target.
Right.
Can you break down what these controls actually entail?
Yeah, it's a bit like the US is setting up a tiered system, kind of like a VIP club.
Uh-huh.
For access to these chips at the top level, you have 18 of the US's closest allies. Countries like Japan, the UK, the Netherlands, they get essentially unrestricted access.
So, like an exclusive AI alliance.
Exactly. Then you have a second tier with stricter quotas on how many chips countries can get.
Okay.
This limits their ability to develop those really advanced AI systems.
And there's tier 3 where things get even more interesting, right?
Right. Tier 3 is where access becomes heavily restricted,
Yeah.
primarily targeting countries that the U.S. considers potential security risks. And the elephant in the room here is definitely China.
That brings us to the million-dollar question. Why is the U.S. making this move now?
Right.
Is it really just about national security, or is there something more strategic at play?
It's definitely a multi-layered strategy. I mean, the U.S. government is very openly framing this as a move to maintain its leadership in AI and safeguard national security. They're voicing concerns about these chips potentially being used for things like developing advanced weapon systems or sophisticated cyber attacks.
So there's a sense that they want to control who has access to the most powerful AI tools.
Precisely, yeah. They're trying to set the ground rules for the global AI landscape and ensure that the technology is developed and used responsibly. Now, it's important to note that there are different perspectives on this.
Okay, so let's explore those different viewpoints. Some people might say this feels like a heavy-handed approach, cutting off access to entire countries. What are the potential downsides of this strategy?
Well, there are definitely some valid concerns. I mean, some experts argue that these restrictions could actually stifle innovation by limiting access to essential resources and global collaboration.
Yeah.
If countries can't get their hands on the best AI chips, it could slow down progress in fields like healthcare, transportation, and even things like entertainment.
Hmm.
Not to mention the economic impact on companies that rely on selling these chips.
So it's not a simple equation. There's a balancing act between promoting innovation and safeguarding national interests.
Absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting. Let's consider the impact on a company like NVIDIA.
Okay.
They're a major player in the AI chip market and do a significant amount of business with China. These export controls are undoubtedly a hit to their bottom line.
So there are real economic repercussions for these companies caught in the crosshairs of this policy shift.
Yeah.
What are their options in this new landscape?
It's a tricky situation. They have to navigate a complex web of U.S. regulations and business interests. They don't want to lose access to a massive market like China, but they also have to comply with these new export controls.
It sounds like they're in a bit of a tight spot trying to balance those competing pressures, but this is much bigger than just one company, right?
Oh, absolutely. This move by the U.S. is sending ripples through the entire tech industry, impacting everything from corporate strategies to the future of AI research and development.
This feels like just the tip of the iceberg. We've got China promising retaliation, potential tech alliances shifting, and the entire global landscape of AI potentially being redrawn. Where do we go from here?
That's the big question, and that's what we'll be diving into next. The long-term consequences of these controls are still unfolding, but one thing is clear, this is a pivotal moment in the evolution of AI, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, it really highlights the interconnectedness of our world. You know, how one policy decision can have these cascading effects across borders and industries. It's like dropping a stone into a pond and watching the ripples spread out further and further. So let's talk about those ripples. What are some of the potential scenarios we might see play out in the wake of these export controls?
Well, one possibility is that this actually accelerates innovation outside of the US. If China can't get the latest and greatest American chips, they might double down on developing their own domestic chip industry.
So it could end up backfiring on the U.S.
Well,
Instead of maintaining dominance, they inadvertently push their competitors to become more self-reliant.
exactly. There's a real risk that these controls could unintentionally create a more fragmented global AI landscape. Instead of having a single interconnected ecosystem,
Right.
we might see the emergence of separate AI spheres, one led by the US and its allies, and another centered around China.
That raises all sorts of questions about compatibility standards and even the ethical development of AI. What would that kind of divided world look like for the advancement of AI?
It's hard to predict with certainty, but it's a scenario we need to consider. If research and development become more isolated,
Yeah.
it could lead to a slower pace of innovation overall. We might see a duplication of efforts with different countries or blocs reinventing the wheel instead of collaborating and building on each other's progress.
And that brings us to the bigger picture. What does this mean for the everyday person? How might these export controls impact our lives beyond the geopolitical chessboard?
Well, on a practical level, it could impact the development and availability of AI-powered products and services.
Okay.
If research is hampered, it could delay advancements in fields like healthcare, transportation, and even things like entertainment. We might have to wait longer for those breakthroughs that could improve our lives.
So it's not just an abstract political game. It has the potential to touch our everyday experiences in a very tangible way.
Absolutely. And it also raises questions about access to these technological advancements. If certain countries or regions are cut off from the most advanced AI technology, it could create a new kind of digital divide, a gap between the AI haves and the AI have-nots.
That's a sobering thought. It seems like this entire situation underscores the fact that technology is never neutral. It's always intertwined with political and economic forces, and the choices we make today have far-reaching consequences.
Couldn't agree more. These export controls are just one example of how AI is becoming increasingly central to global power dynamics.
Yeah.
And it's a trend that's only going to accelerate in the years to come.
So as we navigate this new landscape, what are some key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind? What's important to understand about this moment in the evolution of AI?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that we're entering a new era of competition, not just between countries, but between different visions for the future of AI. The U.S. is making a bold move to try and shape that future, but it's not a guaranteed win. There are risks and unintended consequences to consider.
It's a gamble with potentially high stakes for everyone involved. What else is important to grasp as we try to make sense of all this?
I'd say it's also crucial to remember the power of collaboration.
Okay.
As much as there's competition, there's also a need for global cooperation in AI research and development if we want to ensure that AI benefits all of humanity. We need to find ways to work together to share knowledge and resources and to address these challenges collectively.
That feels like a crucial point, especially as we move forward into this uncertain future. So much of the conversation around AI focuses on the risks and the potential downsides.
Yeah.
But is there room for optimism in this new landscape?
Oh, absolutely.
What are some of the potential positive outcomes that could emerge from this situation?
There's definitely room for optimism. I mean, sometimes constraints can be a catalyst for creativity.
Okay.
If these export controls push countries to invest more heavily in their own research and development, it could lead to new breakthroughs and a more diverse AI ecosystem. Competition can be a powerful driver of innovation.
So instead of viewing this as a purely restrictive measure, we can also see it as an opportunity to foster greater diversity and resilience in the AI landscape.
Exactly. It's about shifting our perspective from a zero-sum game to a more collaborative approach, where everyone has a chance to contribute and benefit from the advancement of AI.
That's a much more hopeful way to think about it. It's easy to get caught up in the geopolitical tensions, but ultimately the goal should be to harness this incredible technology for the betterment of humankind.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, finding that sweet spot between competition and collaboration to ensure that AI benefits everyone. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really want our listener to walk away with? What's the most important message you want to leave them with about this whole situation with AI chips and the shifting global landscape?
Well, I think the key message is that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's something we're actively shaping
Okay.
through our choices and actions. Whether it's governments setting policies, companies making strategic decisions, or individuals deciding how we use AI in our daily lives.
Right. We all have a role to play in shaping the trajectory of this powerful technology.
That's empowering.
Mm.
It means we're not just passive bystanders in this technological revolution.
Yeah.
We have agency, and we need to use it wisely. It's about becoming informed citizens in the age of AI.
Precisely. And that means going beyond the hype and the fear that often surround AI and engaging in these thoughtful, nuanced conversations about its implications. It's about understanding the potential benefits, but also acknowledging the risks and working together to mitigate them.
So how can our listeners stay informed and engaged in this ongoing conversation about AI?
Hmm.
What are some resources or avenues they can explore to deepen their understanding?
There are so many great resources out there.
Yeah.
Read articles from reputable sources, listen to podcasts like this one, attend talks and conferences, and engage in discussions online and in your communities. I mean, the more we educate ourselves about AI, the better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions about its development and don't be afraid to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and think critically about the information you encounter.
It's about cultivating that critical thinking mindset, being curious and discerning, and not just accepting things at face value.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about the technical aspects of AI. It's also about grappling with the ethical, social, and political implications. I mean, AI is a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. It's up to us to ensure that it's developed and deployed in a way that benefits all of humanity.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What's one question you want to leave our listener with? Something to ponder as they continue to explore this complex and evolving world of AI.
Well, if these export controls are a glimpse into the future of AI, what kind of future do we want to create? Will it be a future of collaboration and shared progress, or one of division and technological dominance? The answer to that question is up to all of us. It's a collective responsibility, and the choices we make today will determine the world we inherit tomorrow.
That's a powerful and thought-provoking question to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It's been my pleasure. Always enjoy these insightful discussions.
And to our listener, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more fascinating explorations into the world of AI.
Yeah.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive, so stay tuned.